Hello there and welcome to another Guild Wars 2 video. Today we are going to have a look at boons and conditions. These are the things that in other MMOs are known as buffs and debuffs, things that you typically sat around at the start of a PvE encounter or PvP encounter and decided who was going to give each other what. Well, they don't really work like that in Guild Wars 2. They are much more fluid in the sense that they're proccing off spells in combat and they're not really given by any specific class. They're just things that kind of happen throughout combat, and I'm not really going to get into the details of how exactly they happen in this video. What we will do is provide a link to the wiki, the official wiki, in the description, so you can go and have a look for yourself and see more specific details there. But we just wanted to do this little quick look at them in a broad sense because, if you're anything like me, I didn't really know what was going on with these things. I was playing the game, it's a very fun game, but these things are actually pretty significant in what they do, but they come and go very quickly. You'll notice the duration on them is not that great, and so, the knowledge of what each of these things does, in a very broad sense, is useful to have. They play a significant part in the combat. So we're just going to quickly go through them. Not in detail, but just to kind of give you an impression, really. So let's begin with the boons. First up, we've got protection, 33% damage reduction, and it stacks in duration. So as it keeps getting applied, the duration of the boon will continue to go up. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, as you can see, that is a 33% damage reduction, which is significant. It's not, we're not messing around with little 5% numbers here. It's quite high. Anyway, moving on, we've got Vigor. And Vigor, it gives you faster endurance regeneration. So endurance is that stuff on the yellow bar above your health bar that, tells you whether or not you've got enough endurance to dodge backwards, forwards, left, right, whichever direction you choose. And this basically just makes it come back faster. I think it actually comes back twice as fast, which is really useful if there's lots of AoE going off, or there's some kind of specific attack that you're trying to dodge. Very nice one, that. Next up, we've got Aegis or Aegis, however you want to say it. We have checked this out, and both pronunciations are correct. But anyway, this one simply blocks the next attack. It completely just annuls the damage that is coming your way, which is amazing, quite frankly. So that's a really good one. Next up, we've got regeneration. This is obvious. It heals you, basically. It regenerates X health per second is the description that we've got here, and it stacks in duration. So as it's applied, it just lasts longer. Next, retaliation. Now, retaliation does X damage to an opponent each time they hit you. So, the attacker hits you, and some of the damage is redirected back at them. So that's pretty nice, kind of a Thorns-esque type boon. What have we got next? Swiftness, 33% movement speed increase. So you may have noticed this when I think it's the Mesmer can do it. I think possibly some other classes can do it as well, where you suddenly do have that effect that happens and you all suddenly start running quickly for a short duration. So that's what that one does, and it's very nice in PvP, especially world versus world, in my opinion. Moving on, we have Might, and this one gives X damage per attack increase, and it stacks in intensity, so each attack that you do does more damage. Fury gives 20% critical chance increase, and it stacks in duration. So again, significant numbers here. 20% critical chance increase is quite nice. It's awesome, quite frankly, in my opinion. So that's the boons. There's not many of them, but again, they're all spread throughout. They don't apply to any specific class, although they do come from specific classes, but they can be applied to anyone. And they just kind of trigger in combat. Again, more detailed information on where each of these comes from in the wiki. We're just not interested in doing an hour-long video on this topic. Next up, we've got the conditions. First up, we have burning. This is another obvious one. It inflicts damage per second and stacks in duration. So, if there's fire on the ground and you're in it, you're going to be on fire. It's don't stand in the fire. I mean, it's simple, right? I think it can be applied directly from certain castery type spells. But yeah, I mean, it stacks in duration, so the more it's applied to you, it's just going to keep burning and burning and burning as long as they keep doing it. So if there's a certain, if there's a large number of people doing fire-based attacks, it can be chained on you. Next up, we have Fear. This is a staple of many online games. It feels almost sort of like it's there because it's traditional. But anyway, it's obvious what it does. It causes the target to run directly away from the caster. But I believe, my experience with this, from memory, I would say it's not a very long duration. It just kind of fears you a short distance. But the question is it going to fear you into some fire? Vulnerability. Reduces armor by X, and it stacks in intensity. So when this is applied to you, it increases the armor reduction that you get. Okay. Now, Poison. Again, pretty obvious. It inflicts damage per second, but it also reduces outgoing heals by 33%. So if you're not going to get the healing that's sort of passively happening in the group as part of everyone's support to the full extent. So that's a pretty nasty one. Next is Crippled. Pretty obvious. It reduces movement speed by 50% and stacks in duration, so it can be chained. You're going to be moving a lot slower. Pretty nasty in PvP. Next is Weakness, and this simply just makes you hit like a girl, quite frankly. It causes 50% of attacks to be glancing and reduces endurance regeneration by 50%. So not only are you going to be doing less damage, but you're not going to be able to dodge as often because your endurance is not coming back as quick as it was. Okay, next up we've got Chilled. So obviously this one slows you, but not only does it slow you, but it reduces it increases the cooldown of your abilities. So you're going to be doing less damage, and you're going to be moving slower. It actually slows you down more than the Cripple as well. It slows you down by 66% as opposed to 50%. So it's pretty nasty, and it stacks in duration. So it can be chained by people attacking you in PvP. So watch out for that. Now, Confusion. This inflicts X damage each time a foe uses skill. So, if you get Confusion on you and you use a spell, it sort of reflects that spell, part of that damage back at you. Pretty nasty. It's kind of like the opposite of Retaliation that we mentioned earlier from the Boons. Immobilized puts those horrible chains on you and you can't turn. And I think you slow down a bit as well, and it prevents you from dodging. Pretty nasty. Blind. This doesn't actually behave like you might think it does. It's not like Blind was in WoW, for instance, where you got the blinding powder on, and all of a sudden your character was doing some kind of strange walking about dance. I never understood what that was all about, quite frankly. I mean, if you were blinded, you would kind of, I don't know what you do, possibly kind of just try and feel your way out of the situation. But anyway, in Guild Wars 2, you get blind on, and your next attack simply misses. That seems more logical, does it not? So yeah, your attack just misses if you get that on you. And finally, we have Bleeding, and this inflicts X damage per second, stacks in intensity. So as that's applied again and again, the more you're going to bleed, the worse the bleeding will get, the damage will go up. So anyway, that was just a quick summary of the boons and conditions that are there in Guild Wars 2. Again, there's not many of them. It's a much more condensed system, but they're very quick. They're flash in the pan, here 1 minute, gone the next. Again, all of these things come from multiple sources. And they appear above your action bar or below the health bar of your target, depending on who's got it. So yeah, that's how that works. You may have, if you're anything like me, you may have missed this to an extent. Obviously, you were aware of what was going on with them, but you may not have known the details. As I've mentioned, a lot of them are pretty obvious, but it's nice to just have that quick look and understanding of what's going on with them. Also, forgot to mention, the little border that you can see on the icons here, the duration of them is that's highlighted white, and it counts down like a little clock. That's very useful to keep an eye on if you can. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for continuing to support us and subscribing, all that. Don't forget to check out our website, fluffygamers.co.uk. We do plan to utilise that to grow our community, and all sorts of different things are planned for that. primarily we want to be able to do giveaways and things like that there. So, please continue to support us, share the videos, and yeah, thanks very much for staying tuned. We will see you guys in the near future. Bye bye.